Savelle. Thank you so much for watching. I'm podcasting from the most beautiful city. This got to be one of the most beautiful cities in the entire world. This is Annecy, France. We are right on the edge of France and Switzerland. In fact, those are the French Alps behind me and Lake Annecy. It is breathtaking. Of course, this is the mission field of Terri Savelle Ministries, and we're going all over the streets, sharing the love of God, giving away our books, having a big Dream Big conference tonight. So I want to thank you for praying for our ministry. I want to talk to you today about why you can't trust your feelings. You know, your feelings are like the weather. They just change from day to day. In fact, since we got here, yesterday it was cloudy and overcast. Today it's parfait, it's perfect. Tomorrow it's supposed to be pouring down rain. It changes like instantly. Well, you know, feelings are the same way. Feelings are fickle. They lie. You can't trust your feelings, especially when it comes to going after the dreams, the goals, the vision that God has put in your heart. If you live by your feelings, they will change from one moment to the next. In fact, you might get excited after you watch a podcast and you think, you know what? I'm going to write that book that God's put in my heart. Or I'm going to go back to school and get my degree. I'm going to lose that weight. But then you wake up the next morning and you don't feel like doing it, so you don't. In fact, Joyce Meyer said, if you live by your feelings, you will live a life of devastation and misery and a life of regret. In other words, you'll come to the end of your life and go, why didn't I do those things that were in my heart to do? In fact, you know, I said we have the French Alps behind us. I've heard a story before about how there's a company right around the corner at the Swiss Alps where they cater to businesses and they bring them in to build camaraderie and build team building, team spirit, you know. And they said they meet at the bottom of the mountain and the goal is for the whole team to climb to the top. Well, they want to make their victory photo and celebrate the accomplishment. But they said, you know, they put the hiking gear on, get their backpacks, and they climb up about halfway. At about 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime. They go into this amazing alpine restaurant. They have a nice meal. They sit by the fire. They kick back, have some hot cup of coffee. This is what they said. Once they're comfortable and full, less than half continue the climb to the top. They said it's not because it's too difficult, they're unable, they're exhausted. It's because they don't feel like it. In other words, we've tasted a little bit of success. I'll just stop here. I don't feel like going to the top. Well, that's the way it is in life. You know, sometimes you can achieve certain goals and then just, I don't feel like doing anything else. I don't feel like, you know, putting myself through the pressure, the responsibility. But I want you to know that God has so much more for your life. He never intended for us to just get to a certain level and just park. There's no limit to how high we can go with God. But here's the thing. He's counting on you to fulfill this dream, this goal, this vision that's in your heart. In fact, years ago, when I heard John Bevere say, when judgment day comes, and it's going to come, when we all stand before God and give an account for our lives, he said, God's going to hold you accountable for what you were called to do. Not what you did, but what you were called to do. You know, I heard this story about a guy named Brian Acton. He said, you know, he was a software engineer. His dream was to be on the cutting edge of technology. In fact, he worked for Yahoo for 12 years. But he said, my dream was to work for Facebook or Twitter. So he said he applied at Facebook and he got rejected. Well, he could have thought, you know what, I guess I've missed my calling. I'm not supposed to do this. That was my dream and I got rejected. Instead, he posted on Facebook. He said, I got rejected from Facebook, but you know what? It was an opportunity to connect with some amazing people. I'm looking forward to the next adventure. So he went on, regardless of how he felt. Went and applied at Twitter, his other dream. Well, they rejected him. So he tweeted. Got rejected by Twitter. You know, it would have been a long commute. And he just stayed positive. But again, he could have lived by his feelings and thought, forget it. It's not worth it. I've been rejected from my dream. I'm not going to do it. Instead, he teamed up with a former coworker at Yahoo and decided, let's create our own app. Within 5 years' time of being rejected by the other companies, they sold their little app to Facebook for $19 billion with a B. $19 billion. Well, remember what I said, how God's going to hold you accountable for what he's called you to do? See, even in that instance, he could have said, they turned me down, I got rejected, I missed it, I don't want to do this anymore. But you know what? God could be saying, I knew you were going to create an app. That app could fund the gospel. It could finance orphanages and safe houses. See, God's going to hold you accountable to not live by your feelings because your feelings will talk you out of the will of God. In fact, I heard this amazing story just recently from Lindsay Roberts. Now, Lindsay Roberts is married to Richard Roberts, who's the son of Oral Roberts. You may remember the famous tent preacher, Oral Roberts. Well, Lindsay, she didn't grow up in this, strong Christian home and in the public eye all the time. Well, when she married into the Oral Roberts family, her whole life changed. I mean, she was in the spotlight, ridiculed, made fun of, in the newspapers and tabloids, and she wasn't used to that. Well, also, they bring her into this life. They want her to do live TV with them. She said, I was so nervous, so outside of my comfort zone. She said, I literally had a bucket on the TV set. And in between commercial breaks, she said, I would throw up in the bucket. I was so nervous. She said, I felt unqualified, unnecessary, it wasn't my thing. She said, I just felt like I'm out of my element. I don't want to do this. But she said one day, she told Richard, she said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I quit. So Richard went on to the TV studio. She's staying at the house, and all of a sudden she heard the Lord say, get to that studio. She jumped in the car, got to the studio, got on the set, and Richard said, I thought you quit. She said, I did, but the Lord told me to get up here. But when she got on that live broadcast, the Lord began to tell her. He said, tell someone right now you're contemplating suicide and I want you to call for prayer right now. So she obeyed the Lord. She said those words. 16 people called and gave their lives to the Lord right then. Well, that day, she's driving home from the studio and she heard the Lord say, Lindsay, if you had chosen to live by how you feel, I would have held you responsible for those 16 people. God would have held her accountable for those 16 precious lives if she had lived by her feelings. So I want to ask you, what are you hiding from? What are you shying away from because you feel uneducated, unqualified, you don't feel like doing it, you're not in the mood to do it? Commitment is doing the thing you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has left you. You know what? I have to do that even here. Sometimes we don't feel like walking up to strangers and telling them about the love of God, especially when they burn the book right in front of you or they rip it up. But you know what? God's going to hold us accountable for this. Well, what is it in your life? What is that dream, that goal, that vision that you know God's saying, come on, let's get past your feelings and get moving. I want to encourage you today, you can't trust your feelings. Make a firm decision that you're going to be like Nike and just do it. You have the greater one on the inside of you. You can do everything that God's put in your heart to do. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast today. Please subscribe to our channel so you can get consistent encouragement. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter so I can keep you motivated to achieve your dreams. Au revoir from Annecy, France. Thank you for watching.